Hey parents, welcome to the Mommy Pod, where we keep it real about parenthood. The joy, the chaos, and everything in between. I'm your host, a single mom, educator, and everyday woman learning to give herself grace while chasing her dreams. Whether you're folding laundry, stuck in traffic, or sneaking in 5 minutes of peace, this space is your reminder that you're not alone. And you're doing better than you think. So, grab a coffee, grab a tea, grab a drink, take a deep breath, and let's get into today's episode. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Mommy Pod. Today's episode is an important and honest conversation about something many families experience but don't always talk about openly: fatherlessness, trauma, and how childhood shapes the way we move through life and motherhood. Our guest today is Shalina, a counselor and musician whose work is deeply rooted in her lived experience. Raised by a single mother who escaped domestic violence, Shalina grew up navigating the effects of abuse, absence, and intergenerational trauma. Today, she supports others as a counselor specializing in trauma, domestic violence, narcissistic abuse, and healing. Shalina, thank you so much for being here and trusting us with your story.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to talk about this topic. We don't talk about it enough, I feel. So thank you for giving me the platform to do so.
Yes. Can you share what your childhood experience was like growing up in a single mother household?
Yes, my mom had to leave my father overnight when I was 15 months old because of domestic violence. So overnight, with me in her arms, she had to leave because he nearly killed her. And after that, we went and lived with her parents and her brother. And I guess that became my normality growing up. Like, that was a norm for me, which is not entirely normal when, normally it's a mother, a father, and one or two children. And in this case, I had something completely different. So I would say it was strange. And I didn't realize until I grew up that it was grief, that I was carrying a grief of not having a dad. But obviously I still did have my mom. And I also realized, I think she was probably grieving as well while trying to raise me, like grieving what her life could have been like and grieving having to give everything up because of the domestic violence. So I think I grew up in a lot of confusion and a lot of desire of having a dad, but never ever really getting one, even until this day.
Yeah, that's really hard. And my next question was, what were some of the emotional realities that you experienced as a child? I hear you saying grief and confusion.
Yeah.
But what are
I've
some other experiences or emotional realities that you experience that people don't always see from the outside?
I think the reality of, when I was in school, when I was a child, uh, it felt like everybody around me had a father but me. And that reality was probably the hardest to accept, because my father is never going to be in my life because he chose not to be in my life. That was a decision that he made because he didn't want to pay child support, and his intention was never to be a father. So it was just confronting. And I think Father's Day was probably, for me, the worst day out of the year. Nothing else, could compare to the magnitude of the pain that I felt on days like Father's Day and having to face that as well. But I had a lot of, I guess, anger and bitterness and resentment towards my father growing up emotionally. Yeah, I was probably a bit dysregulated for sure. And um yeah, always feeling like I wasn't good enough or worthy enough because of his choices.
Yeah,
And I think my mom tried to make me feel like I was, but I didn't believe it.
yeah, it's hard. This is a sensitive topic, especially for single moms and well, single
Yeah,
parents that are listening that have the other parent that has left, or that you've had to separate from,
yeah,
which is an experience that I can relate to. We weren't in a healthy relationship, and I didn't want my children to see that. So that's
yeah,
why I'm a single mom. So I totally understand. I commend your mom for making that hard choice. But
yeah. It was a hard choice for her.
yeah, but ultimately it had to have been the best choice because she was in a better situation and not being abused.
Yeah, I mean, certain people in my family did try and say to her that why don't you say like your daughter's going to grow up without a father? And my mom's like, but he abused me.
Mm.
Like people don't look at why she was a single mom. They just look at, oh, now you're a single mom, but why aren't you staying? Why aren't you giving it a chance without knowing what the person, what the mother is actually going through and has gone through with that person?
Mhm.
So yeah, it's sad when you don't have support.
It is. And some people just continue to go through it because they are afraid or they don't have support. So, what does fatherlessness actually impact in a child's development, emotionally or psychologically?
Ooh. Well, for me, I think it affected me in many ways. I think it affected me at school. I think it affected me in the way that I saw myself as a person. It affected my friendships because for me personally, I was always looking for a father figure in some way, and I was always looking for um, that protection, and it was subconscious. I didn't realize that is what I was doing, but that's exactly what I was doing, and it can affect you in many ways. It can affect you in your relationship with God. Spiritually, we look at God as being a male, but then the first male who was supposed to be in your life was not there. So it can create that type of confusion as well spiritually. Financially, it affects you because you're living off one income. So, the child probably doesn't get to do the things that they want to do, or socially, or participate in, football or cricket or whatever sports that they're interested in because of being impacted financially with one income. So it really intersects and it hits you in so many ways, which I definitely did experience. And my mom felt guilty that certain things she couldn't do or afford for me, but I don't hold it against her, and it was never her fault. But it's yeah, emotionally you question your worth,
Mm-hmm.
and as you get older, your attachment styles and your relationships, it can be anxious, it can be feeling necessary, looking for reassurance, which feels necessary for stability, or you become avoidant and you use hyper independence as protection.
Mm-hmm.
It affects the way love is perceived. Like, I thought that love was something that had to be earned and maintained rather than something that I could receive freely. So all those things did impact me as a child, and I think it would impact a lot of people who grow up without fathers.
Yeah, I think I'm still learning that. Thank you for pointing that out. You just said something that just struck me that love, you can receive love freely. I think I received that from my children, but I think that's like a natural expectation and a natural thing that happens. But when it comes to other people, I feel like you have to earn love or,
Yeah.
um, yeah, to work to have it. So, yeah, and that could be my because I grew up without a father also. My father was around though, but just not around, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Was he my like physically there but not emotionally type of thing?
No, he wasn't even physically there. He lived in a different city.
Oh.
Yeah, and so I knew he was close, but yeah, he would visit every now and then. He was just in and out of my life uh
Oh.
as a child, and now that he's a grandfather, the last 5, 6 years. He has really stepped it up a little bit, and he calls and checks on me all the time. So it's different. It's a different dynamic now. Um, but I still feel those remnants of growing up without a father.
Yeah. Does it feel strange for you that he's now keeping in touch because he has grandkids, but he didn't sort of do the same for you?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can imagine that. I mean, my dad now has another daughter. He's remarried, and I feel like he got given a second chance to be a
Mhm.
father and a husband, but he took away my opportunity and my chance to have a father in this life because of his own selfishness, because he married my mum for visa.
Yeah.
And, once he got that, 2 days after I was born, he changed because he got his permanent residency. And that's when his true colors showed. And my mum was like in a state of shock because she'd just given birth and
Yeah.
her husband had just changed as a human.
Wow.
And it was unbelievable. Like, yeah, that shock, lasted a very long time and it affected her physically. So, yeah, and I just feel like, it's such an injustice
Hmm.
that he gets to live his life now.
Yeah,
And
I totally think like it's not fair. Like,
yeah,
but I totally believe in karma. And
yeah,
I know like my dad was not the best to my mom. And I feel like he has suffered the consequences ever since then.
yeah,
Like he has never been with another woman as beautiful as my mom, as kind. There's just so many things that I feel like he has suffered for and will continue to because karma. And so when it comes to his and I relationship, I understand that he was young. And
mm,
when I was in my 20s, I don't know if I wouldn't have been the mother that I am now.
yeah,
And so I have to give him grace and allow him to be as he is today, but also remember what I know and how he's treated me. And so have that distance between the kids, but also allow the relationship to form, if that makes sense.
yeah. Yeah, no, I understand. I understand. It's tough. It's tough. And each person has a different story when
Yeah.
it comes to fatherlessness. And there's so many different forms of fatherlessness as well. Like, it could be a father in jail, it could be, like you said, in and out of life, it could be with me, abandonment, it could be the father's died, like, and every single type of fatherlessness has its own uh pain and trauma.
Right. Have you ever reached out to him?
I did actually. What year am I in? 2026. Oh my God, 10 years ago. So it's been a decade now that I first and last saw him. And I went to his house because the guy never wanted to come see me. And that's where I met his daughter, well, my
Oh,
sister for the first
yeah.
time. And that was pretty confronting. He didn't expect me to be there that day. So when he saw me, he didn't recognize me,
Hmm.
which I was like, okay, fair enough. You don't recognize me. And pretty much everything my mom said he was going to be, which was, fake, a manipulator, victim blaming, that's exactly what he turned out to be. And I think that broke me the most, that he really was what my mom said, because all this time I had hope that maybe, you know, he wasn't, or maybe he really genuinely changed. Maybe he was really sorry for what he did, but he absolutely was not. And that really hurt. So it took me quite a while to just get over how he didn't actually particularly care
Yeah.
about, what he did and how it affected me. And the fact that, I met his wife and his daughter, and it was like, my God, like, you've probably lied to them. Like, they don't even know the truth. Your wife doesn't know the truth because she was there defending him.
Hmm.
And in my mind, I'm like, damn, you really got away with what you did. It felt like it.
Hmm.
Still feels like it, but as you said, maybe karma does exist. It's hard because if you don't see it, like if I don't see
Yeah, you want to
people,
see it happen.
yeah,
Better.
you just want to make sure.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. my kid's dad is getting married, and I feel like when is his karma gonna kick in?
Yeah.
When is she gonna notice like she is being bamboozled? This man is crazy. Like, and it's not happening. They've been together for
Oh,
like 3 years, and she's continuing on with the wedding. Like I am just so
yeah. It really, you do really sit there and wonder, like, do do they ever see the light, or do they just keep getting fooled? I wonder.
yeah,
I mean, my dad's still married to her, so obviously she hasn't seen the light yet.
yeah. But I feel like they do. I mean, in their own way, because people don't change, and so what your mom said and what you saw is probably what that lady is dealing with. And some people just
Yeah.
feel in silence. Or I don't know. I
I
don't know.
mean, she seemed like a strong woman when I saw her. But I mean, obviously the internal dynamics, I don't know. It
Yeah.
just sucks because I want a relationship with my sister, and I can't have that because of him. And I'm sure she's wondering about me.
Yeah.
I didn't leave the best impression when I went over to meet him, because I was like crying and screaming, and I was like, "Where the f have you been?" And
Yeah.
you know, losing my mind because he never came to see me. So she saw me at my worst. So I'm hoping I haven't afflicted too much trauma on her. I didn't mean to, but I was overwhelmed with emotion that I had even just met him, because I wasn't sure if that was his house. So yeah, poor thing.
Wow. Did she ever reach out or did you ever reach out to her afterwards?
No, because she was really young. I have a very big age gap with
Oh,
her. I'm about 15, 16 years older than her. So when I went to meet her, she was only like, I think she was 8 or something.
oh, she's an adult now.
Yeah, so she'd be about 18. I think she's turning 19 this year. But
Yeah.
the other problem is I don't know her name.
Oh no.
So yeah, and she doesn't know my name. Like, so I don't know how to find her, and I want to. I just can't, because I don't know her name properly,
Oh my
because
God.
I only ever saw my dad once.
This is we need to like get the internet sleuths on this. This needs to be our new mission. I'm sure because anybody that has a sister, I'm sure would want to know that they have a sister and want to connect with their sister.
Yeah, I mean, I really do.
Yeah.
But I think her mother's quite protective. And, sometimes, like, when you've already got a good thing going with your family, you don't want like a fourth person to come in and ruin what you have that is already good. So I feel like her mother may not want me to come in and, you know,
Yeah.
cause a problem.
That's worst
So,
case scenario.
sorry.
I think that's worst case scenario.
Yeah, it's a tough one, but if somehow the universe is willing, I will at some point meet her. How? I have no idea.
Yeah. Wow.
I just hold on to that hope that maybe I will.
Well, I'm holding on too, and I hope to that you come back and have a reunited. What was the reunition? What's the word? Like a
Union.
reunion. Yeah, reunion story.
I know that would be amazing. I've been waiting for so many years, but it looks like it's a bit of a waiting game.
Yeah.
Um, Lucky my mum's okay with it. Like, she understands, but there's there's just nothing I can do to get to her or to find her. Because if I rocked up at my dad's house, I think he'll call the cops to get me out of there.
Do you know where he lives? Like in America, we can put in their address and it'll tell us like who owns the house or who
Yeah,
lives
yeah,
there. Can you do
yeah,
that?
yeah. Well, I've been to his house.
But
I didn't go inside, but I've been to his.
oh
So that's why if I went back again, there would be problems. So I kind
yeah.
of have to stay away now.
But could you Google the address to see
Yeah,
what the names are?
yeah, yeah. I know he never sold it, because we can see the data of the real estate history,
Yeah.
like when was it bought, when was it sold. So to this day, the house has not been sold or rented out, which means that they're still there.
Well, if you have his name, then you could probably Google and it would tell you like what his daughter's name is.
Oh no, it doesn't come up like that here.
Uh,
Also, he has a very common name. It's like a John Smith, like
Oh,
a very common name as
yeah.
well. So that becomes difficult as well.
Oh,
And
okay. Yeah, I was gonna say because like I hate it because in America, I don't know how it is there, but here you can type in someone's address and their name and their whole information will come up, who their family members are, like all their identity information.
wow.
One,
Yeah,
yeah,
no, we don't have that.
that's good. Where are you in
What do you say?
Aus- what country? Australia? I forgot. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm in Australia.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, we have gone off on a tangent from my questions because I am so interested in your story.
That's okay. You can ask me anything. I'm like an open book.
Okay, we'll go to the important balance that a mother can be doing her absolute best and a child can still feel the impact of an absent parent. So, how do we hold that conversation with compassion without placing blame on mothers? Because um, it can be really hard for moms raising a child by themselves.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know if I phrased that question right.
I think I think my mum felt like she had to be everything without ever being shown how to do that. You have to, like, she ended up having to be a protector, a provider, nurturer, emotional support. But I mean, my dad, sorry, my mum never got that from her mum. So, she was on her own on that one, and she had to step into both roles at once. But nobody really teaches you how to be both parents when you're already so overwhelmed. But I don't feel like a single mom can be a dad. I feel like you're just a mom, but you're a mom with double the responsibility, double the stress, double the emotion, double the financial expenditure. Everything's doubled up for you. But what a child needs from a mom and a dad are two separate things. So I guess it's important to, you know, hold them in high regard for what they're doing as a single mom, but also let them know, like, you don't have to be the dad or make up for that, because it's just not possible to do that. You can only be one parent. I mean, if you could make up for being a dad, like if my mom could have done that, then why do I still feel the absence of not having a dad? You know what I mean? So I think, yeah, I think that's how I see
Yeah.
that when it comes to, having that type of conversation with a single mom, just reminding them that you're not expected to be a dad, because it's not your fault. That was not your job. That was the job of a dad, and they're the ones who, for whatever reason, chose not to be there.
Yes. And you, hold on one second. Hi, Lily. You mentioned intergenerational trauma. What does that actually? Okay, what does that actually look like in real life? Not just a concept, but in family.
Well, I would say, because I only had my mom's parents, right? So, I could go as far back with my mom, her mom, and her, so my mom's great grandmother. And in my lineage, the intergenerational trauma looks like grief and loss, because my mom's great grandmother didn't have a mum. And then my mum's mother had to become a mum at a very young age, looking after all her siblings. So her childhood got taken from her. My grandmother's childhood got taken from her. My great grandmother's childhood got taken from her because they were all married off young. So I think that got passed down, the inability to really nurture and be a parent. They didn't get that opportunity to. And I think it came out to my mum as well, because in some ways she probably could have done better, I'm not going to lie. But she did the best she could, and she did break the cycle of trauma where she really tried to bond with me and be a good parent, which is what she did not get from her mum, and her mum didn't get it from her mum, and her mum didn't get it from her mum, going all the way back. So that's just like one, example of it, with the trauma and the grief and the loss and the absence of a childhood being passed down. It's like learnt behavior being passed down. So the original traumatic experience gets transferred through being a parent. And even on my granddad's side, he lost his mum very young. So he had a lot of trauma, and it came out in the form of anger. Like grief comes out in the form of anger. So, he would lose his temper very quick. But when I thought about it, when I really connected the dots going back, it was like this is unprocessed childhood trauma of losing his mum and nobody knowing how to emotionally regulate, because at that point, who knows about therapy, right? In the 1930s, 40s, 50s, even to this day, some people refuse to go. So it comes down the lineage, and then intergenerational trauma shows up through the way you parent and your relationship styles with your partners. So I think it's really important to recognize, where does your pain stem from and who does it stem from? Your parents, their parents, you have to go all the way back in your lineage and connect the dots. And that's how I got to where I am now, after connecting all the dots. And that's how I help other people connect dots, because we're literally going all the way back in the lineage. You have to go backwards to come forwards.
Yeah, that's really great. I was going to ask, how did you come out of it and come out to the other side? It seems like statistically, with generational trauma, it doesn't set us up for success, but you seem to have a successful life. And
I try.
yeah, that's really great. At what point did you realize that your childhood experiences were affecting you, and at the same coin, that the generational trauma was affecting you? Do your kids love stories, colors, castles, and adventures? Well, Princess Liliana and the Rainbow Castle is more than just a storybook. It's an interactive journey where little readers explore colors while building imagination. From the sunny yellows of the Golden Hall to the sparkling blue sapphire shoes that she wears, each page bursts with magic. Plus, it comes with a coloring book and activity pages, so the fun continues even after the story. It's perfect for toddlers, preschoolers, and early readers. Turn rainy days into rainbow days with Princess Liliana and the Rainbow Castle. It's the perfect way to teach your little ones colors while sparkling their imagination. It's available now on Amazon KDP.
Ooh. Well, it's a few things. I mean, the generational trauma, I think I realized when I would ask my grandparents when they were alive about their life, what they went through. And after they would tell me, it was easy for me to figure out why they do what they do and how it impacted them as a parent, how their parenting impacted my mum, and why my mum may have been the way she was with me. But then my turning point when it came to healing and with my dad, my absent dad, which is my biggest pain point, was when I kept thinking growing up that I had to forgive him in order to move on and get over what he did. But I was never able to get to a point of forgiveness, like even to this day. And I watched a TED talk on this lady who was talking about forgiveness, and she was like, you don't have to forgive to heal. Like if you're mad, that's fine. Stay mad, but do something healthy with your anger. Don't do something bad with it. And I was like, oh my God. So I actually don't have to forgive him to heal? Like, I didn't realize that, because everybody always, points the forgiveness thing at you. Just forgive him for what he did. But how do you forgive if you haven't processed it and haven't healed and haven't gone to therapy? So after that, I decided, like, I probably need to go to therapy, because I was hoping that one day the pain wouldn't hurt, his absence wouldn't hurt me, but it continued to hurt, which meant I had to do something because I was sick of it. You got to be sick of your own crap to make a change in your life. And I guess I was sick of feeling like crap. And yeah, so I started going to therapy, and the therapist sort of helped shift my mindset of how I was thinking, because the thing that she said to me that resonated with me was that, because I was saying to her, like, my dad didn't want me, he never wanted to be in my life, like I blame myself for it. And she was like, it's not about you, right? And I was like, excuse me, what do you mean it's not about me? Like, he abandoned me. What are you talking about? And then she's like, no, it was easy for him to disconnect from you because his intention was never to be a dad. Like, so he already formed the disconnect in his mind. It wasn't that he loved you and then just decided to abandon you. It was that it never existed in the first place. So he disconnected, and the reason he doesn't want to see you is because you're a reminder of everything that he was at that time. Like, you're a reminder of his past, and he doesn't want that. So it's very easy for him to not want anything to do with you. And then after that, I was like, wow, like that makes so much sense. Like, my worth was never defined by his absence. And I guess that's what led me into where I am now and what I do now. But it sort of started quite a while ago.
That's a great therapist. What should someone look for when trying to find the right therapist?
Oh, I would say somebody who has lived experience. I mean, I only offer, even with my clients, it's things that I've been through. Otherwise, I can't relate to them and I feel like I can't connect. So sometimes it's important to find a therapist, and there's so many now. I mean, they're everywhere. A lot of people, not that every therapist is going to be good for you or right for you, but there's so many more therapists available. So you want to look for somebody with lived experience, I feel, because that's when they connect with you and make things make sense to you, and they understand, and that's how you feel validated. Your pain feels validated, but you're also open to listening to the experience and taking on board what they say, rather than just some random person who might be very generic. There's a lot of generic therapists out there. You don't want the generic ones. You want the ones who've had life experience in whatever trauma you carry.
Yes, that's great. And
Yeah.
what would for the single mom or a single dad that's listening who may feel worried, overwhelmed, or triggered by everything that we talked about, what what would you want them to hear right now, and how can they support their child emotionally when they feel like they're still working through their own healing?
I think you have to, I think going to therapy is something that is very important on your healing journey. Supporting your child, I guess, by showing up for them and letting them know that, hey, like, this is not your fault, because children internalize it. I mean, I did. I thought that there was something wrong with me. So it's always about letting your children know that whatever happened between me and your other parent, it has nothing to do with you. Sometimes, adults just don't work things out. So it just depends on the way that you want to speak to them. So to remove the blame. I think if the child also needs to see a child therapist or psychologist, sometimes it's very important to get them into therapy early. I always feel like if I had gone to therapy much earlier in my life, if that was a thing that existed in my family dynamics, if people were open to it, I would have healed a lot quicker. I wouldn't have, had so much uh, low confidence and low self worth. I don't think that would have existed if I had gone to therapy, but I went very late. So I think it's also a good idea to get your children into therapy. Obviously, things like journaling really helps, but journaling only helps if you do it correctly. There's an art to journaling as well. So you can journal whatever you're going through, but actually, you're supposed to learn and reflect from your journaling, go back to read everything and what have you learned from it? How can you grow from it? Share it with a therapist and unpack those things. So there's journaling. It's also looking after yourself holistically, with meditation and exercise and your diet. So it's really about looking after yourself holistically, making your mental health your number one importance, making your child feel like none of it's their fault, getting them into therapy if you need, and being gentle and compassionate with yourself. Some days is going to be hard. You're going to feel like crap. Give yourself a day off to just chill. Like, you don't always have to be on the go. You can honor your pain and acknowledge what you needed, and you can still, continue moving forward as well. So yeah, don't don't internalize it. Like, this is life. It happens. You may not be with your partner for life. That's just the way it is. Like, I've had to come to accept it, that, in this life, I don't get to have a dad. It is what it is. I can bang my head against a wall. It won't change. So now I'd show myself as much love as I can.
That's so good. That's so important, to show yourself as much love as you can. Shalina, thank
Yeah.
you so much for your honesty and your vulnerability, and for helping us have a conversation that so many people need and are going to get so much out of.
Oh, thank you. I hope people get something out of it, or just validates their pain and their journey, because I know it's hard.
Yeah. This episode is about understanding and awareness and healing forward. Where
Yeah.
can our listeners find you? And you're also a musician, so where can our listeners hear your music? And
I'm on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn, just as Counsellor Shalina. And on YouTube, I have new music coming out this year. I'm under the artist name of Sed8, which is SED8. I'm going to be having music coming out to do with all these types of traumas, even sexual abuse and domestic violence. So, yeah, that's what my focus is this year. And also have a free ebook on narcissistic abuse and coercive control. So if anybody feels like they might be going through it, they can check that out as well.
what about those who have went through it? Because I can definitely relate. I'm gonna go get that.
Well, it's for that as well. If you've gone through it, just
Okay.
with narcissism, there's actually about 8 different types of narcissism. So a lot of people don't realize that narcissism comes in 8 to 10 different forms, and it's also on a spectrum of mild, moderate, severe, or clinical. And then clinical means it gets diagnosed, but the problem with narcissism is that it doesn't get diagnosed very often.
Right.
Because narcissists don't go to therapy.
Nope, because they know more than the therapist.
That's exactly right. So
that's what I was told.
no, it's very true. They have a very high ego, a very false ego, but it's very high, and as a result, they are the last people to ever end up in therapy, which is the reason why the person who dealt with them ends up in therapy.
It's like a cycle.
So I actually have a book coming out on the first 4 types, the most severe types of narcissism, and how to deal with it. So that's going to be coming out soon, within the next few weeks. So that might help people who don't know how to navigate a narcissistic relationship. It helps to, first you have to identify what type of narcissist they are, and then you can learn how you can deal with them. So yeah, there's a lot to learn about narcissism as well, and how to deal with these kinds of creatures.
Yeah, that's really good. I'm gonna definitely look up that book, because I think co-parenting with a narcissist is definitely a thing. And so if we can all identify
Yeah,
the level, and then we know what we're dealing with and know how to
cope with them.
how to cope.
Yeah, I know it's not easy.
Well, thank you so much. I can't wait to look up your information and your book, and I will be Before we go, I just want to say thank you. The Mommy Pod is built in the middle of real life: work, kids, laundry, rebuilding, and dreaming. And every time you listen, share, or support what we create here, it truly matters. If this episode spoke to you, one of the best ways to keep this podcast going is by supporting our Mommy Pod products. From our children's books and activity books to our calming sprays and digital downloads designed for moms and parents and families. Everything you purchase goes directly back into keeping the show alive. And if you can't purchase right now, sharing this episode with another parent means just as much. Thank you for being here.